G'day, I'm Alistair Christie from LearnDelphi.tv, and I'm on the line with Primož Gabrijelčič, Delphi author and MVP. So,
Hello.
g'day, Primož.
Hi.
Yeah, so you've written a number of Delphi books now, and some other books. How's that process gone for you in terms of getting things published and that kind of thing?
Well, each one was a bit different. So I started with the OmniThreadLibrary book.
Yep.
Because I actually tried to write the documentation inside the code, so XML doc and so on. And that didn't go well for me. I don't know, I just wasn't my thing. And then I decided to document it in the form of a book, which started and stopped and stopped and started. And the process took a few years and then a few years. But I finished it eventually. Okay, that one was self-published. So I wanted to give out documentation for the people and put together documentation for myself. So whenever someone asks me how to do something in OmniThreadLibrary, I typically look into my book. So it's also a source for me. I don't have to remember everything. And the second one was more like a very, very rush job. The Pact company contacted me. I think they had a potential deal with some other author which failed somehow, and they were looking for someone to finish the book in a quick time. So that one was done in like 4 months of a very, very large job. But I think it's still a good book, so people say so. And then they asked me to do another one, and
so that was the Delphi High Performance.
That was Delphi High Performance, yes. And they asked to do the patterns thing. Well, I really love that one because the High Performance was a bit of a mail order job. They had all the skeleton was put together. The chapters were more or less set. What has to be said inside and which things needs to be here. So I had some control over the content, but not as much as I would like. I just filled in the gaps. And the pattern book was all mine then, from start to finish. So it was not that much of a rush job. Luckily, so I could take a time from between chapters to cool down and think stuff over and so on. It's a lot of work. Whichever way you turn it, it's really, really a lot of work.
Yes.
Put in one book together.
Yeah, I'm just about to publish my first one.
Getting
pretty close. So, and that's it's been delayed. Like I started it over a year ago, and I had my son was born, and we've had lots of jobs on the farm to do, and it's kind of a lot of
great, congratulations.
A lot of things have gotten in the way, but it's probably I need to write a little bit of introductory material and a little bit of a summary, but otherwise it's finished. I'm just I've had a few people read over it. And just correcting basic grammar and that kind of stuff, cleaning it up. So no one's complained about the code samples or anything like that. So hopefully that's good. But that's basically on being more productive in the Delphi IDE. So
cool.
Looking at a lot of using the keyboard shortcuts and things like multi-paste and smart surround and then using plugins like GExperts and CNPack and all those sorts of things to
Model Maker.
Model Maker Code Explorer. Yeah. What plugins do you use? in Delphi?
I cannot code without MMX and GExperts.
Okay.
So those two are the must. I
Yes.
wrote some stuff for GExperts in the old days. A few experts there are mine or partially mine, but I need some parts like align lines. It's like mostly editor experts, I must say. Nowadays, I use a lot, and MMX is a must. So, yeah, without Control E, I cannot do anything.
Okay, I get what's is that format source?
The edit procedure parameters and so on.
Okay. Okay. Yes. No, I use the new shortcut, the Control-Alt-Shift-P for synchronized prototypes. That was part of Castalia when they integrated that into the Delphi IDE.
Yeah, those two are.
But yeah, I used.
I think I use. Oh yeah, the bookmarks and navigator. Add-ons, and I think that's it. DDev extensions and edfixpack, of course, from Anders, which make everything better. I'm picking at my second monitor now to remind me what I have installed.
Yeah, I try to install as little as possible and run the IDE. So I have it installed on half a dozen different machines, and keeping them all up to date with different versions of Delphi plus all the plugins is quite tricky. So, but I'll often install CNpack. I quite like some of the tools in that. And I think the syntax highlighting in that, the structural highlighting in that is a lot superior to the standard Delphi one. But and things like the uses cleaner and things like that are quite powerful tools for cleaning up code. But I talk about that in the. I've actually so I've got the Code Faster in Delphi book, which is almost finished, and also there's a Code Better in Delphi, which is probably not even half finished as yet, which has got a lot on making code more maintainable. And
so those are self-published, or do you have a publisher?
Well, it's interesting because Pact have contacted me a couple of times, and I've said, "Oh yes, I have a book almost finished, and here's kind of all about it," and then I never hear back from them. So it's kind of really bizarre. One of them contacted me about a video, making a video series, and but I'm doing the book at the moment, so but there will be a video series for it, and obviously wasn't interested in getting a book published, so it's kind of weird. So I might follow it up, but I think how have you found Pact with publishing your books and promoting them and that kind of thing? Is it a bit better than self-publishing?
It's a lose-lose process, not a win-win. When you self-publish, you lose someone to kick you all the time and to push you on, and you have to be really, really, really focused on the writing to do anything. That's why the OmniThreadLibrary needed those 6 or how many years to be published. Because at the end, I said, okay, I started with this book. I wanted to publish it before my second book is published. So I finished OTL book like mere days before the high performance book was out. And with the publisher, you lose the flexibility, you lose the freedom of the process and so on. So it depends on what kind of person you are. I like self-published book more, but they took longer to produce because, as I said,
motivation.
I started preparing my 4th book, and then life happened, and it went on hold, and then I went back to it, and something else happened. And if you have external deadlines, you have
pressure and motivation. Yeah.
Yeah, you have pressure from the outside.
Indeed. So I've I mean,
but there will be the fourth book, definitely. The fourth Delphi book.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, I've just started reading the newish one that you've got there, the Delphi. That's kind of a extension of the high performance and design patterns book, the learning path one unpacked.
Yeah, that's basically something they put together from both books. I wasn't even part of the process, so.
Oh, really? Okay.
That's how big publishers work. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's more of a combination of the other two, isn't it?
Nothing more. Yeah. They made a course out of it and put together a combined book as a reading material for the course.
Okay.
I believe, but I actually wasn't even contacted about that. I get royalties, but they did everything.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not something I like, but it's hard to get to someone who would even write anything back to you. So big publisher, they don't care that much about writers. They just want to sell books.
Okay.
That's why I like the self-published stuff more. I know what's going on. I know who it's going to. I know who will read it, and so on. And so
yeah, I sort of feel that the Delphi community is kind of a like I can probably reach much of it myself rather than having to go through a publisher. So
you don't need the marketing engine.
Yeah.
Behind you, because you target 2 or 3 forums and your YouTube channel, and you have covered most of the bases here.
And maybe try and get Embarcadero to promote it a little bit or something like that. And yeah, I think that probably would be good. But yeah, I'll see. I'm leaning towards the Kindle Direct publishing at the moment. Because it's just, so simple. But then I might go through a different, but I'm not sure about the printed edition, and whether I release the electronic one first or try and get them at the same time, or the printed one first. That's a bit of a challenge, and I want to avoid the situation where I'm maintaining 2 versions of the book, so the electronic version and the printed version, which would be rather annoying.
Yeah, I like the way I took, actually. I don't know where I learned about LibPub all those years ago, but they're a really, really nice publisher for self-published books, because you put a book together in some kind of a markdown format, and then they generate PDF and EPUB and Mobi, that's the Kindle format, and HTML. So it's easy to put everything on the web, on mobile, or they will just give you a PDF which is print ready. That's how I do the Lulu version of the OmniThreadLibrary. Just export the print ready PDF from LibPub and put a cover page on and put it on Lulu. So I have print on demand printed version, and it's good because it's all single source. You're a bit limited in formatting, but not that much. So there are pictures, tables, and everything, table of context, so on and so on.
Yeah, I've been using Google Docs.
I started in Word, I think, with the OmniThread Library book, but that didn't get me anywhere. So when I were in basic text, you can form on content, that was much better.
Yeah, Yeah, currently I haven't done a huge amount of formatting, so I mean I've got all the source code is got all the syntax highlighting and stuff in it, but yeah, I'll probably once all the editing's done, I'll probably export it to Word and then go from there, do all the formatting, and create PDFs and stuff, and all the sort of fancy page numbering stuff I want to try and achieve. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. So did you say you're working on another book currently?
Currently, no.
Oh, okay.
I am, yes, but currently I'm busy with all the other stuff. So I was doing some side work, not for my job, so another external customer, private job, and then all this various stuff happened. So yeah, the life is much too busy, and the book is again on hold. But yeah, I have the table of chapters ready, so I know what I will put in.
Okay. Are you able to discuss what it's about, or are you keeping that secret?
Yeah, I know what it's about. It's about. Do you know the Julian Bucknell's book about Delphi? I have to Google up the name because I'm terrible with names. Sorry with that.
That's all right.
Delphi, that's the tomes of Delphi.
Okay.
Algorithms and data structures. So building on that, algorithms and data structures, from a practical standpoint for a Delphi developer, how to do your Delphi programming. So the idea is mostly, what do you have to know to not write crappy code?
Yep.
So, because it's very easy to do a crappy code in Delphi, because everything is just so simple. You throw everything together, but then stuff goes to the customer and suddenly everything is very slow. So basically I'm building on the high performance book, mostly on the algorithms part, the first chapter.
Okay, so a lot of discussion about the Go notation.
Building out of that, yeah. What's the stuff that you should at least know about, not know by heart, but know about and know where to look. Look more if you want to know more.
Yes, a lot of the I know a lot of the sort of computer science stuff I learned at university on, I think I've written a binary search algorithm once that I've needed to, and and very, you very rarely require knowledge of sort of those low-level algorithms, because you just use some library that has already been written.
Exactly.
But knowing how to do it is very useful. You don't actually need to write it, but knowing that this is algorithms using a hash table, or doing a linear search or whatever, that is very helpful to know internally how these things work.
Yeah,
so
that's exactly my premise. Yes, that this is not the stuff that you know how to code, but you have to know that it exists and when does it apply and how it will save you and how it will help you. So if you're in Delphi, you cannot use sorted list, not a list, and then binary search kicks in. Or you can do TRA.sort and then you have TRA.binary search suddenly, which you can use, and so on. Because no one should code the binary search, it will be buggy.
Indeed. Yeah. I needed it. This is going back like 15 years or something. There was a website that had a limit on the size of JPEGs they supported for uploading, the 20 kilobytes, back when as a real estate website when a 320 by 240 image was acceptable as a a photo, and so I basically did a binary search on start at 50% quality for the JPEG, and is it higher or lower kind of thing, and then eventually find the optimum quality setting to get under that 20 kilobytes, but be the best possible. But yeah, that's I think that's the only time I've actually written a binary search outside of a academic setting. So I've been thinking about going back.
Just don't do it, I think.
Yeah.
Because you will get edge conditions wrong. You will get overflows. You will get infinite cycles. Everything will break.
Those things are so easy. I mean, quick sort
you can just reuse.
Yeah, quick sort's easy to describe, but writing it efficiently is really hard, and getting it right the first time.
No, not possible.
I've wondered about actually trying to do some live coding, and I'm embarrassing myself tremendously on trying to write some of these algorithms that I used to know. Quick sort and merge sort and bubble sort and selection sort, all of these. And various other bits and pieces, but I think it would just be too embarrassing. Spend a long time trying to get it written, but I'm getting it to work correctly. Yeah. So, do you want to talk a little bit? I mean, you've mentioned OmniThreadLibrary a few times. Do you want to talk a little bit about what it is and why people should use it?
Yeah, sure. It's a library which makes multi-threaded programming possible with Delphi in practice. I think I wrote somewhere in the book that there's every serious programmer writes a multi-threading library at one point in his life, and it's all crap. I did that, then I did that again. Then about, third or fourth or fifth time, I finally got it correct. So I just didn't throw everything away immediately, and that became OmniThreadLibrary later. It comes from my job, basically, because always since I started in Delphi, actually in Borland Pascal or Turbo Pascal years ago, we with friends were always pushing the limits of hardware and software. So we always needed fast code, hence my focus on high performance and algorithms and so on. And with Windows, we very, very quickly moved to multi-threaded programming, and I still am supporting one of our programs from this time. That was from late 1990s, and that's a terrible life supporting this crappy pseudo multi-threaded code which uses threads in such a terrible way. And that's because in Delphi we got T-thread, and that was it.
Yep.
And T-thread it's the same as you would say, okay, you have those 5 assembly instructions here, now write the code.
Yeah.
It's so low level. Yes, you can do a thread, but that's the simplest job in the world. You call begin thread on Windows, set up a few parameters, you're done. Everything else is the problem. So OmniThreadLibrary started first as a wrapper around T-thread with a focus on communication. Because as it turns out, if you want to write multi-threaded code which causes you less problems, it will never cause you no problems, but less problems. you should not really focus on sharing data, but on sending data around from thread to thread, because that removes the needs for locking. And if you don't have locking, you live a happier life. And about the time when OmniThreadLibrary went into, I don't know, version 2 point something, Microsoft started a big push into task parallel library, which then became a .NET parallel library. And they did few of the things there very, very well, because they moved completely away from the task, or as away as possible, task being more or less the same as thread. And they moved to high-level stuff like parallel for and futures and so on. And that's when I started writing version 3, which was based on all this stuff, and which is incidentally something that we get later with system.threading in some limited version. So this part of OmniThreadLibrary is something that I mostly use in day-to-day programming. I rarely go down to multi-threading because, to low-level multi-threading to tasks and threads, but I work with high-level stuff and pass messages around and data, because that's much less bugs, simplifies supporting, because you cannot debug multi-threaded code. It's for a single threaded code, you can write a unit test or 100 unit tests, and they will prove to you that it is more or less correct. For multi-threaded code, you can write 100 unit tests, and they will only prove to you that, mostly it works.
Yep.
But you will never know when it fails, so it's so hard. And, well, when I used it in production for so long that we were happy with it in the company, I put it out for the people, and it was well accepted, I would say. The biggest problem, why would you use OmniThreadLibrary? Yeah, because it simplifies life. It allows you to focus on, hey, you over there, please do something for me, send me the result back programming. Not, okay, I want to log this and then set this event, so the other part will take the data and unlock, and it's terrible. Why you should not use the OmniThreadLibrary? Because it's still Windows only. That was one of the original scenes. I started it in Delphi 2005 times. So all the beginnings were completely Windows focused, Windows related, and as it turns out, Windows is a fantastic operating system for writing multi-threaded code. It has such richness of low-level support that you don't get on Unix, Linux, and derivatives, and it's fast and it's beautiful. So it never really moved to other platforms. And there was a guy, Sean Birkin, who did a partial port of OTL, but he never put the hard parts together. He did a lot of basic stuff, lots of supporting stuff, some very good helper classes, but then I started to put it together, and then I wrote a book, so this was on hold. Then I was in another project, and just not enough hours in a day,
Indeed.
At the moment, I'm working on it again, so maybe this time we'll get something together.
Okay.
I'm trying to get the low-level task support together in a multi-platform way. things are getting simpler. Like 5 years ago, it was hard to do any testing for OS X, iPhone or Android or whatever. Everything was just so slow and not stable, and every version of Delphi did everything differently. But now the stuff has stabilized, and I can test it simply with the Linux platform, which makes my life easier because I can run Linux in Windows host. So I can just run Ubuntu in a subsystem on my Windows, run PA server in that Ubuntu, and do the testing on one machine, and everything is quite quick and stable. And maybe now I will get somewhere. I hope so.
Yeah, no, I bought your OmniThreadLibrary book, but I haven't got around to reading it yet. So it's one of the because I figure it's a book I need to sit down with in front of the computer rather than just sit down and read, which I could do with your other books.
No, you can just read it.
So, okay, all right, I might give that a go.
Skip the parts that you're not interested in at the moment, just to get the big picture. It is written as a book, so it's good as a help. So when you get stuck, you look something up, but you can also read it as a book.
Okay.
Just gloss over the details which you're not interested in, and you'll be fine.
Okay, well, I'll definitely give that a go shortly then. Yeah, that's. What sort of projects have you worked on with Delphi? Anything that you can talk about?
Yeah, I can talk about them, at least in general terms. At least about the stuff that I work for my main job.
Mm-hmm.
Because the other customer-related projects are mostly NDA and so on. Okay. But that's the most interesting part, actually, my day job. So I'm part of the company which develops software and some hardware to be used in TV broadcasting.
Okay.
So it's the stuff that we sell to TV stations, and they use it to prepare and to transmit subtitles for TV program.
Okay.
And they use it to prepare and transmit teletext, which is a very European thing, but maybe you have heard about it.
We've had teletext in New Zealand, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, of course, you are PAL country.
Yes, a lot of it's been abandoned because of the internet. It's a lot, the reference aspect of it. But I think the subtitles still work. And there's a few things related to gambling. I think the sports betting that is still good. But I've never used teletext. So,
in old times we also wrote stuff for producing. It was called video pages here in this part of the world, and it was actually a filler for the TV program. So when they didn't have anything to put on, like in dead hours from 2 to 4 in the night or something like that, they just converted the parts of the teletext containing the news into a bitmap and transmitted this as a TV picture. So you could and the pages were scrolling, so you could read the news or whatever. The reason for that was because it was cheaper to leave the TV broadcasting towers running all the time.
Really?
The turning the transmission off and on again is an expensive project. Stuff can break when you do that, and you have to tune everything up at the beginning and so on. It's easier just to keep everything running all the time. So they didn't want to put out black picture. They invented this video text. I think the BBC invented that, actually.
Okay.
Video pages, it had different names in the world. But the times for this are gone now. Everyone has a TV program all day long, 24 hours a day. But teletext is still very strong in Europe. For example, it's one of the biggest daily media. So with millions and millions of viewers, so it's very strong still. And you can read it on the internet. So if you don't want to read it on TV. But most our job is subtitles. Yeah, we have editing software, and then we have database software, and then we have synchronization to TV automation, and then we have, like, for example, transmission over the DVB. So we have our box at the end, which combines video and our subtitles and puts everything out so you can view it on your TV at home. And all this is, lots of this is a CPU intensive process, or at least was when we started, when computers were quite slow. So I always had a focus on speed, and especially this DVB transmission, which we started in 2003, I think, was very multi-threaded software from the very beginning, and actually that's where the OmniThreadLibrary began its life. I wrote those two together. On previous projects, I did those previous crappy multi-threaded libraries, which I hate now. And each of them was only used in one project, no more. But this one was, this one works. So, and I still use it. We still do high performance stuff now. The TVs are moving to gigabit Ethernet and sending picture over the IP, and so now again we use all the CPU that we can get on a modern, let's say, 24-core server. We'll just give everything up to give us, and parallel programming is still yay. And Delphi is still great. You just have to know what not to do, because there are things that will kill your performance. And I actually went over them in the high performance Delphi book. So what not to do, not to kill your memory manager and so on. So you still have to know something, but you can do great stuff with Delphi in Windows.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think people are doing amazing things with Delphi. It's really good to see. I mean, we're currently using Skype, and it was originally written in Delphi, but I'm not sure if it's still. I think the app.
No, it's not.
Microsoft
rewrote it completely. That was like 3, 4, 5 years ago when Skype was absolute crap, and then they slowly put it together. Now it mostly works, but still, the Delphi version was the best.
Indeed. Yeah, I think I've heard so many stories of companies trying to rewrite Delphi applications. They feel it needs to be written in Java or C# or something like that, and these projects often fail miserably. They just can't get the performance that they need, and it's interesting.
We just did a big rewrite in our company in the last 2.5 years, and it was from 16-bit Delphi to modern. It was a big job, but still much less job than rewriting stuff and anything else.
Yeah, it's quite scary rewriting the really highly optimized code. Is because it's really hard to understand sometimes the reasons why things are done. And I was working on a project that had these while loops, but they were kind of only really ever went once through and it turned out that quite often you had break statements in them, so that they were kind of used as a replacement to goto. Obviously, someone heard goto was bad, and so using while loops with break, which is probably almost as bad. But this is really low-level Delphi code that was written a long time ago. It was very horrible to deal with because it was all based around records and pointers and stuff like that.
Yeah, we all have
multi-threaded
code in our
history. It didn't use C-thread. It used sort of the Windows low-level create thread or create process or something like that. I can't remember. It was, and yeah, I really never got to understand how it worked properly. It was so complicated.
ANSI string as data buffer and so on and so on. Yeah, terrible stuff. I actually have a talk based on that, which I did a few times here in Europe in different locations.
Okay.
It's a look at my old code with the current eyes and showing why is it terrible and how is it terrible and how I would do it now and what we can learn from that. And during one of those times, I found a single method which was like 1,700 lines long.
Yeah. Yes.
And
yeah, I've worked on
the worst thing
projects
is that it is still part of a live product.
Yep. Yeah. No, I'm aware of a few procedures like that thousands of lines long because.
So we all did the terrible things.
Yes. Yeah. And I find working with a lot of legacy code, and working with people that perhaps aren't quite as passionate about programming as I am, and the code just degenerates so quickly into incomprehensible messes because they're too scared to change anything because it might break, and then it's their responsibility to fix it. So they end up copying and pasting a huge chunk of code, and then modifying that to suit their purpose, and then you end up with all this duplicated code, and it just ends up so quickly becoming an unmaintainable mess of code. When you're working in a team, and the focus is on getting features and bugs fixed and things like that, not about the quality of the code, that is a bad situation to be in. I've found.
I can just agree with
that. yeah. It's happened to me. Only really on one project, significantly. That it was so. It's very frustrating to because you end up spending a day or even days working out what this bug is, and then you're just changing a few lines of code to fix it, and it was just a horrible experience as from a development point of view. But yeah, I much prefer working on sort of cleaner code bases that have been maintained, even if they are
changing the old code is always a problem. Typically, we don't have enough tests. We have no tests, and
and how do you
know what will break when you fix something?
Yeah,
so you add another parameter which says, okay, in this case only, fix the problem, and in all other cases, please behave as you did before.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the code is even worse now than it was in the start.
Yeah, it's so hard to fix up that legacy code, and I think if you've got the time to do it, it's okay because you can actually get some unit tests. You can refactor the code to get some tests going, and then look at modifying the code and trying preserving the behavior. But if there's any time constraints, that's often not possible. So yeah. I've worked on so my sort of first real programming job was on real estate software, and I still do a bit of work on that project, and I quite enjoy that. It's quite, because there's so much freedom. There's no I don't have any particular pressure to do things in a particular way or by particular deadlines. So usually for the big stuff, so I can sort of, there's plenty of time to think about how to do things and construct things in a way that is sensible. And so that, but I found that's I'm working on that by myself, so that's a bit lonely. And I've worked on banking software and legal software and wagering systems. And that's all. And it's kind of much larger organizations and huge bureaucracies, and it's
I know
to get anything done.
I had some contact with this area in the past.
Banking in particular.
Gaming so much for me, but
yeah.
It's very, very, very regulated.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and all sorts of change management and that sort of thing. I mean, they're dealing with large quantities of money, so that a certain amount of care needs to be taken to make sure that that doesn't go to the wrong person and that kind of thing. So it's a rogue developer or something that could potentially do things. But I think on that project, I think there would have been only 2 people that would have understood the code enough to be able to to do anything like that. So it's but it's certainly interesting. I've certainly when I working by myself, I was concerned that my skills went up to scratch and that kind of thing. But when I'm working with teams of developers, there's some there've been some good developers and very, very, very smart people. But it's I discovered my skills were okay. I was I wasn't sort of stagnating too badly. I was learning new skills and putting them into practice and that kind of thing. But which my experience has been tends not to happen in larger organizations. There tends to be not a focus on improving developer skills the way they should be.
Yeah, so, I'm lucky that way because I started in working with my colleagues from high school, basically. And we are a very, very small team. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4 developers and few support people and few administration people. So, and everything is more or less developer driven, not market driven. So,
that's excellent. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's
amazing.
We can discuss stuff and solve stuff and so on. But I do work from home, so in other aspects, I'm a bit like you, maybe. Working by myself, so you need a kind of control, self-control, which says, okay, now stop with this and call someone and discuss. You will not solve it by yourself. So you need a second opinion here. So
yes. I find. I mean, I don't know. Do you use Stack Overflow very much?
I did in the beginning until I got up to 20,000 points. Then I slowly dropped away. Because I got everything. I basically won the game. Got all the privileges. I'm still present there if there's some OmniThreadLibrary question or something like that. I monitor the Delphi tag, but I rarely write anything.
Yeah, I don't do. I find if you want to answer a question, you have to be so quick with a response. It's quite hard, and you have to be so careful about asking questions because people. It's quite strict on the format of the question and stuff like that, and sometimes you might include a bit of background information because you want the situation where you're doing something, but you're not actually sure if that's the way you should be doing it. So
okay,
and then they say, then you get some comment about, I don't know, yeah. I find it's very hard to ask questions without getting someone being angry at you for violating some policy.
You have to have a real problem, not just okay, folks, give me some ideas about that. But you have to have real problem. You tried something, it's broke, you don't know how to proceed, but you have your test case, you have everything, then they will help you. Yes. For more free-form discussion, you have Embarcadero forums, or you have the Delphi Praxis forums where I am present too. I like them. So there are alternatives. But yes,
Indeed.
Stack Overflow is strict.
Yes.
But I understand them. They had a very good idea what they want to do, and they didn't want it to fall apart in
and it's been
some kind of Quora or Yahoo answer. So
yeah, it's been hugely successful. So yeah. Certainly, Joel Spolsky and Jeff Atwood, I think, the founders of that. And it's now they have quite a large team, I think, of people working on it. So that's pretty good. Yeah. Is there any other projects you've worked on that you'd like to mention, or if something interesting about them you'd like to discuss? Or
in the last time it was it was all work and traditional work and external work and maybe some books and the life going on. Now with Corona especially, because we were so busy in the first 2 months in our company that we hardly managed. As I said, we work for TVs and they started working from home too, and they ran into all kinds of problems, which of course we had to solve immediately, if not before, and we were in a crisis situation for more than a month, I think. Now it's getting a bit better. So no, on Delphi programming, I do my blog from time to time. I do my OmniThreadLibrary from time to time, and
so your blog is the DelphyGeek.com?
The DelphyGeek.com, yes. On private area, I started playing with 3D printing.
Okay.
At the end of the last year, so that's an
right. I think
area.
I saw on Twitter you had an OmniThread logo or something like that.
I did.
Yeah.
With the logo. That was in the beginnings when we got the printer with friends. So that's excellent technology.
Yeah. So have you had a practical use for it, or just been playing around?
Oh, no. Lots of useful stuff we produced. So.
Okay.
From replacements in workshop or in the kitchen to some tooling and so on. You can do lots of stuff. And a part of it is that the kids are now playing with the software and they learn and they do stuff. It's part this, part that. But yeah, a great toy.
Yes, okay. Yeah, I've got a friend who he started with 3D printing, but I think he's more mass producing stuff now. But the sort of robotics, or it's a construction challenge thing for schools, where he uses heavily parts and pulleys and cogs and motors and things, and the kids have to work in a team to build, solve various tasks.
Oh, nice.
And they sort of the different schools compete against each other in tournaments and things like that. So he's done that. It's been very successful for him. Although this COVID-19 thing has now meant that he's not going to, of course, run that at the moment, but he's going to do a lot of the marketing aspect of it. But yeah, so it's interesting. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you're working on the data structures and algorithms book, and you're self-publishing that one through.
Yeah, I will be self-publishing that one. LeanPub, yes.
Yeah. So how long do you think it'll take you to finish that one?
Let's hope less than the OmniThreadLibrary book.
Yeah, indeed. Oh well, certainly look forward to it.
Thanks.
I try to read as many of the Delphi books as I can.
I will certainly publish it the same way as published the OmniThreadLibrary books. So it will go out when a chapter or two is written, and then you will be able to get the updates. Because that's one of the nice features of the LeanPub. So you can publish your book when it is not finished. So you publish it when you want it. So and you can give it to the people for whatever amount you want from zero on, and they will get all the updates in the future always. So they don't get some version, then they would have to buy then the update and so on, but they get the book, and as the book grows they get the updates. So that's how the OmniThreadLibrary book was done. I started with the low-level task stuff and published it, and then published updates from time to time. It's good because you get feedback back. It's also good because you get new readers from time to time who maybe buy your book even when it is not finished yet. So you get some motivation to do the further work.
Yeah.
Say, okay, I have 10 new readers. I really have to publish something now. So self-kicking in the ass.
Yes. Yeah, I've got a video on Embarcadero Academy on the system.zip library, which is I don't know, it's probably about 2/3 finished. But yeah, I need to, and it's been sitting there for over a year now, that I need to put the last few videos together for that. It probably would only take me a few days, but yeah, it's just I don't feel particularly motivated on it at the moment. So, but yeah, I'll get these books published and then have another go at it. But yeah. Okay. All right. We can probably finish up.
Okay.
So, if people want to get in touch with you or find out about you, what's the best place to go?
To http://myname.mysurname.org. So http://primož.gabrijelčič.org, and you have my digital card there with Skype and email and everything.
Okay.
That's probably the simplest. Or just Google me and Delphi.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
I'm the only Delphi programmer with that name, so that helps.
Yeah, ditto. So I think anyway. I mean, at least if there is another Alistair Christie out there that's they're not blogging or anything. So
no, there's another Primož Gabrijelčič here in Slovenia, but he's not a programmer, so we're fine.
Indeed. Okay. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to talk.
Thanks for talking with me.
Yeah, it's been excellent. I have to catch up again one day.
Thanks for doing this series of interviews.
Yeah, it's
so we
excellent.
have something to listen to.
And also it's that like people might be using your library and read your books and what have you, and not actually know anything about you yourself. So it's just quite handy to put a personality to the book.
Mm-hmm.
And what have you. So, and yeah, and I think it's good to see lots of people publishing Delphi books at the moment. This is quite Marco's still active. He's not working. He's currently busy on other things, but he's got his Object Pascal handbook, which he's going to release a new version of, and a VCL introductory VCL book, which he said is about 400 pages. So it's.
And Andrea is finishing his FireMonkey book, I hope. He ran in the same problem of doing most of the stuff and then getting derailed with other projects, and now it's hard to finish. I know how it goes. But
yes,
it would be a good book.
I've just about completely finished the book, and I'm just struggling to get that last little bit done and finished. And there's a bit of getting a few more people to edit it and read over it. I think Danny Wind is currently having a read, and then I'll get Holger Flick. He volunteered as well.
Well, I would love to read it before you publish it if you want.
Okay. And certainly if you've got time to
for reading, I always read. So that's my main hobby, basically, beside everything else. So if I read computer book instead of science fiction or whatever else, no problem. I can do that.
I quite like science fiction and a bit of sometimes a bit of fantasy type stuff as well. I've just finished. There's the Expeditionary Force. It starts with Columbus Day. I don't know if you're familiar with
no,
that.
I don't know this one.
So it's available as an audiobook. Audiobooks. I think there's 11 books in the series at the moment, and narrated by someone who's really, really, really good. And the story's pretty good. I'd recommend having a go if you have an Audible subscription. It's worth.
When I listen to stuff, I typically listen to podcasts. So.
Okay, yeah, I've been listening to a few podcasts at the moment, and yeah, I used to listen a lot when I was commuting. So for spending like an hour and a half in the car a day, you get a lot listened to, particularly if you're listening at, I'll listen to stuff at double speed or even more sometimes. So get through quite a lot. But since kind of I'm now partially retired, I'm only working 1 day a week for in terms of an income. Then it's I am not getting anywhere near as much listened to as I used to. So it's a bit more challenging. But sometimes if I'm doing chores or digging post holes or something like that, I can plug in and listen while doing that. So, but yeah. What are you reading anything at the moment?
Reading, I was doing some Gibson. I'm terrible with names,
me too.
I probably mentioned that before, and yes, I read the Obsidian. Thank you, my daughter. The Illumine trilogy.
Okay, I've not heard of it.
Illumine, Gemini, and Obsidian. Exactly, I read that on paper. I read almost everything on digital, but this one is a very special book that with parts like this.
Oh, okay.
And everything very, very visual. Okay. So I read this on paper. That's the text, nice. The white lines.
Yeah.
And I read the last Gibson trilogy. What was it? Google help me. Works. the Blue Ant trilogy. Yeah, that's interesting work.
Okay, I'll have
he was looking at digital age in around 2010, and how he thought it would apply to marketing and to art and some stuff, and it's quite an interesting work. He got lots of stuff correct again.
Okay. As have you read Snow Crash by? Yeah, because that's like written in '84, and it's all, has all the sort of avatars and kind of thing. It's kind of like a
Cyberpunk was my favorite in the '80s when it came out.
Okay, I've not read Cyberpunk, but or I'll probably find the audiobook if I.
Neuromancer and Mona Lisa Overdrive and so on. So yeah, that were interesting times.
Indeed.
People had no idea what will become of all those computers.
Yes. Yeah, with it's different. So it's hard to appreciate how much computers have changed over the last few decades.
Yeah.
I mean, I deal with a lot of people who were not even alive in the 80s. Born in the 90s and 2000s and stuff, and they I suppose it's like you talk to some of the older programmers now talk about punch cards and things like that, and it's kind of it's a generation before me.
Well, I know how they looked. Never used them myself, luckily.
Yeah,
but I did use magnetic cards as a memory storage medium. So instead of floppy disks.
Yes. Yeah, so I think the first computer my family got was an 8 megahertz 286, and that was that's I can't even tell you. I was 11, I think, when they got that, and and learning stuff back then, you basically had to buy books and what have you. There's no internet.
Yeah, typing in hexa code, which was published in magazines.
Yeah, I did a lot of that. The little COM applications that turned on the caps lock light or something like that. Or if you held down the shift key in a batch file, it would return a different error level or something like that. So you could, do all sorts of things like that. And never understood how any of them worked, but back in the day. But yeah. PC
I
magazine.
started on Sinclair ZX Spectrum, and it was like 48 kilobyte machine with a TV for the output, created in Great Britain.
Is that a Z80 CPU?
That was Z80, yes.
Yeah. I did a course at university where we
in that time there was a computer magazine. Well, like General Science and Computer magazine, like printed magazine, of course, no digital media then, which covered programming, and they published pages and pages of hexadecimal bytes, which you typed into your computer to download the program, with checksum at the end and checksum vertically, so you could verify everything. So you downloaded program from a printed page. It's hard to explain now to people.
You're looking at input of not bytes per second, but a byte every few seconds kind of speeds. And I was just saying that at university I did a course, and they actually built a computer out of a Z80 CPU and memory, and actually physically wired everything together. And wrote stuff for it. And that was, I suppose, quite illuminating, but something I'd never do in real life. These days, it's just, these days you just buy a Raspberry Pi or something like that. And it's,
but even you buy Raspberry Pi and then you program it in Python or whatever, But at those times, we all just used assemblers.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, well, we'll call it quits, I think. I'll stop the recording. So
nice talking to you.
Likewise.
Have a nice day. It's early morning for you.
Yes. Well,
I think.
Yeah, 9:10. It's
it's
not too
11 p.m. here, so I will just wrap up for today.
Okay.
It's good to be talking with someone on the other side of the world.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, thank you for your time.
Bye-bye.
Catch you later.